Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's time for another episode of Powerful Inc. Startup Stories. I am so excited. Shocking. My intro is like always the same, and it's like this. But today we'll just jump into it. You guys know me, you've been listening for a while. I'm joined by Sharon Macey, who's founded a company called Mom to More to express yourself after the kids don't need you anymore. It should be like Mom More, because now you just get to do you all over again, which could be a bit of a process of discovery. But you guys, like, honestly, not to be ageist or to pick on Sharon, there's something so beautiful and so womanly, feminine, and heavenly to me to see women just pursue their hearts
Mhm.
when the time is right for them to do that. And this is probably going to be the underlying key theme in this is that it's never too late. You are always enough, which is a big part of what Sharon's message is. And you are already designed for that calling that you're feeling. And if you have the time now, because the kids are, so-called out of the way, do it and follow along with her because she's not so much a coach. She's a thought leader. She's a speaker and a motivator and, does workshops and things like this. So it's a different type of frequency to get involved in and a bit refreshing too. So welcome to the show this morning, Sharon.
Thank you, Me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. So Sharon and I have been hitting it off like home runs in the email. We met through a mutual connection and we're just having a blast together. And there's that sharing in the growth of getting a business going that's happening between us too, where I've improved my podcast intake process just as a result of the few exchanges. And we're sharing ideas back and forth on how to do this, how to do that. So it's just another wonderful connection to come into the collaboratory, right? My signature word for not being a solopreneur, not allowed at Powerful Inc. And so today we're just going to talk about her story and how she got here and what she's going to do, and then all the little things that come through that. Sharon, one thing I started doing at the beginning is just a 3-question intro for you to speak for yourself. So it's a little bit about you, who you serve, and why you love it.
Terrific. A little about me. I was a former stay-at-home mom for about 20 years. And throughout that whole time, I kept thinking to myself, what do I want to do when I grow up? And I thought, well, isn't that strange? Because I'm a grown-up already. And I realized years later, like after my kids were getting older, that the real question that I personally was dealing with was, what do I want to do when my kids grow up? And that really sort of started me on this journey of reinvention and realizing that while I was, what I always like to say in air quotes, just home with the kids,
Yeah.
I was gaining so many skills and superpowers. And I mean, like when you think of all the things that we do as moms, right? We get into nonprofits, we get into leadership roles, we're in the Parents Association, we're, president of this
Yeah.
and we do
Project
so
managing,
project
logistics,
management,
planning.
oh
Yeah.
my God. And you realize you're an event planner and
Yeah.
you're an organizer and you take on these huge projects, and it's just really an incredible skill set that
Mhm.
every mom has. And I always like to say that being a mom, I think, sets you up for a fantastic future because it just drills in so many skill sets. You realize you learn about negotiating.
Mhm.
Don't try it with a 4-year-old because you will lose. Um, and so really this whole journey of reinvention, and I've done it myself. So I realized that it's not impossible because I did it. I love dance. I gave it up for years because my kids were um, well, they were overwhelming, and there was really not a place to dance for adults, where we lived. And then I did find an adult studio, so went back to dance. So I compete in Latin Ballroom, and it's just trying to find the things that resonate with my heart, that make me feel whole, that make me feel proud,
Mhm.
and that's really sort of just the germ of it. And I know we're going to get into a lot more as we chat.
That's beautiful. And, it's kind of remembering of who you are underneath what can be the overwhelm of being a mom,
Mhm.
for sure, because we just get into the doing and the serving. and
Right.
it's all outwardly. And then if folks are like most of us, we're spent at the end of the day, and
Mhm.
there's not a lot left to pour back in. Maybe you fall asleep reading a book or scrolling your phone, what have you, but it's opening up space to remember. And if you're in the thick of it now, you can start casting the line towards the time and space where you can come up for air a little bit, right? And listening to you describe that beautiful portfolio, let that sink in for the stage of motherhood that you're in now, listeners, because um, it could heighten your awareness, and then you can start to be a bit more intentional um, and aware of the skills that Sharon's talked about here and how they're, broadening your ability to then leverage them into something else, which is a big part of your message.
100%. And I also think it's really important, Mia, to, like what you just said, maintain that lifeline to who you are. And there are things you can do. You can take a class. You can keep up with a publication that was in the industry you paused or gave
Mhm,
up for your
mhm,
kids, or
mhm.
you just paused it. You can go back and take a course at a community college or online. There's so many things online now.
Yeah,
Everything's online now.
yeah.
And I think it's so vital to maintain that lifeline to who you are. So when it is time,
Mhm.
when the kids are in school full time and when you have more daylight in your schedule, you have that opportunity to say, okay, the time is right for me to start dabbling in, going back to, whatever it is, whether you want to return to your former career and what
Mhm.
might that look like, or chart an entirely new path. And I find a lot of moms get very entrepreneurial. They've got a skill set that they didn't realize they had. If I've interviewed some people who have said, if you had told me 5 years ago that I was going to be doing X, I would have laughed.
Mhm.
So there's that option. And then there's a lot of moms who are like, you know what? Been there, done that. I don't want to do it anymore, but I gave up fill in the blank for my kids. And that habit or that passion or hobby is something I really want to go back to. And I say, go for it. I think that's beautiful.
So that is worth pointing out, and a bit of a different conversation, a broader conversation, and important that we're not just talking about moving into entrepreneurship. So we're not talking solely about starting a new business, and this means we're talking about our whole self, because running a business is a part of ourselves, and it can feed the heart and feel like a large part, but it is separate from us. So then your audience is moms who are coming up for air, who are in the next stage of motherhood where the kids are less dependent,
Mhm.
and you're looking to just help them find their way back to remembering who they are, what they, or what's next. Because maybe the example is when people retire, some of them just fall flat on their faces because they have no idea what's next, right? They've had this job,
True.
we've had these kids, they take up our entire life for 20 years. And then, oh my gosh, what do I do now? How do I fill my time? So that's really unique in your business where you're looking to serve such a varied audience. So tell us a little
Mhm.
bit about the kind of women that you're really wanting to speak to and have spoken to.
So Mom to More is really a podcast and a community for women rediscovering themselves after motherhood.
Yeah.
And I look at this platform as really uh, sort of a transformational and empowerment, a guiding light for personal growth for when, moms have more time to do the things that really resonate and are important to them. And what's been interesting about this, and it's at its infancy, I'm just really growing this
Yeah.
as, as we talk about this.
Yeah.
And, but, and I've had the privilege of interviewing just some extraordinary women for my podcast. And you realize that there are so many exceptional women moms in this world who have just brilliant ideas and amazing capabilities, and then have sort of found themselves over the years. And it's a journey for sure, right?
Mhm,
It's not
mhm,
something that happens overnight. It can happen over the course of 10, 20 years.
mhm.
And then And then you get to that point where you're like, I have created my next act and now you're fully into it. Or you have that realization of this is where I need to go and this is who I am and this is what I need to be. And so it's really a very personal journey. And even a mom who is in over her head with the little ones, you can really just start, as I said earlier, maintaining that lifeline to yourself, doing things that keep you connected
Mhm.
to what it was you did before,
Mhm.
or perhaps an interest that you have that you haven't yet explored.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of ways to stay connected, but I think the main idea is really just staying connected to yourself,
Mhm.
and then realizing that all the things that you're doing as a mom, which you are blowing off, because I blew them off. You don't realize the vast skill set that you actually are honing while you are simply home with the kids. And so, in starting this business, my website just launched today. I mean,
Oh,
truly just
great.
rocking and rolling,
Yeah.
as we go along here. And what I like to say, flying by the seat of my pants. I
Mhm.
definitely ascribe to that methodology. And I think just getting the community and reaching out to women and making them or letting them know that there is a community of like-minded women who will help them and inspire them and
Mhm.
motivate them for their metamorphosis, after the kids leave the nest.
Mhm. Yeah, a transition space, a
Absolutely.
space of safety and togetherness without judgment and really without pressure. I'm just, loving the flexibility and the openness of
Mhm.
your space where, again, it's not about running a business. And I really want folks to anchor into this because even as an entrepreneur, you're more than just an entrepreneur. You're still all these other things. And so
Mhm.
it's an important message to stay connected to all of who you are, whatever
Yes.
the endeavor is. The other element is whatever's going on in your life, you can always find a little bit of space. And it doesn't have
Mhm.
to be this full-time undertaking. It can be, you know, reading for half an hour a week. Like, it doesn't have
Mhm.
to be something big. That's not the point. The point is to make space for your heart to come out
Mhm.
and to be shared. And so, Sharon, I mean, I'm going to assume that this idea and this desire comes from your own lived journey. And then what? Maybe experience with other mom friends, noticing a pattern, feeling a need. Like, why?
Mhm.
Why mom to more? Why this?
I've lived, like I said before, I lived this world
Yeah.
and I lived that. I remember becoming a mom, and it was, my decision with my husband. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. His mom did the same. And it was just really important to me, to be there for my kids. And I did try to keep, I'm a writer. My background is advertising and marketing, and I did keep a couple of clients. And then by the time I had our second child, our daughter, I realized, wow, I am outnumbered, and this is just not working anymore. And so I reluctantly gave up my last client
Mhm.
and went full on into mom mode. But
Mhm.
then you have these feelings of, is this it? Like, is this
Mhm.
going to be my life from now
Mhm.
till forever? Am I nothing anymore? People don't ask me what I do anymore because I didn't think I really wasn't doing anything anymore in my mind. And my
Mhm.
husband was saying things like, Sharon, you're out of your mind. I said, she's like, you're raising our children. That is the most important job on the planet. So I love him for saying that and applaud him for being such a proponent of that and realizing that I was doing, and every mom, we are all doing this extraordinary job of raising the next generation of humans and imbuing in them morals and values and knowledge and wisdom and love. And and that is an extraordinary job. I
Mhm.
mean, just period.
Period.
Um, and then I think, but as time went on, you realize you get involved, like raise your hand if you
Yeah.
have worked in the nonprofit world, or if you haven't worked as a class parent or baked cookies for,
Mhm.
however many bake sales. And,
Soccer coach,
yeah, I mean,
driver.
you name it. And absolutely. And what's amazing about being the chauffeur of the family is, boy, you are the fly on the wall, aren't you?
Mhm, mhm,
The things
mhm,
that you hear in the back
mhm,
seat, it's
mhm.
hilarious, but I digress. Um, and I think there's just a real, there's a strong rationale for hanging on to who you are and realizing that what you're doing, like you will have that time to reinvent and to recreate in time.
That's
And
right.
it will happen, but it will happen in time. And you know, you have a lifetime ahead of you. And this moment with the kids, which seems like forever, and it
When you're
seems
in
like
it.
it will never end, and it
Yeah.
seems like you will never get enough sleep. It does end, and the kids start growing up, and then they get to that moment of, I don't need you, mom. I'm like, yeah, you do, but you know,
You'll figure it out.
you'll figure it out. Yeah. And so there's just a lot of, you know, sort of hills and valleys, you know, in
Mhm,
this
mhm,
journey.
mhm,
And I
mhm.
just think it's so important as a mom to realize you will get there, but it just takes time. And you will have that time in your life to do whatever it is that you want to do, you know, whatever it is that really floats your boat and that you want to, you know, make your next chapter, or it could be your second chapter, your third chapter, your fourth chapter. A lot of moms have just, you know, they'll reinvent on multiple levels.
Of course.
Yeah,
Yeah, because once you start going down that road, you're just experimenting
mhm.
until you fall into something that's gonna click for you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's the other beautiful freedom of it where, um, there's no expectation,
mm,
there's no demands, and it can feel very, disassociative, you know, to be exploring yourself because you're not exactly sure who that is, but what's lovely in this space that you're holding is that it's fine, and you come as you are until you're ready to pick something and run with it for a little
right,
bit longer,
right,
right?
right. And I also think what's important to me is that your past as a stay-at-home mom is really the gateway to your future. You will learn so much about who you are as a woman, your leadership skills, what you love, what you don't like, um, the types of people you like to work with, your creative side. I mean,
Mhm,
like, who knew that I could plan an entire event?
mhm,
Right? You because you
mhm,
end up doing things like that and fundraisers and raising money. I discovered at my kids' school that I loved being on the development team. I was
mhm.
on
Oh, I lost you for a second there. There we go.
So I discovered that I loved being on the development side of things. I ended up being on, you know, working with the school that my kids were at, working on their development team, asking for money,
Mhm,
fundraising. And you sort
mhm,
of realized, do I like asking for money? No, but you realize the way I pushed myself past that was you just sort of spit out the number. Like sometimes, you know, being at the school we were at, they'd say, okay, we would like you to ask for X amount of dollars from this family, and I would sort of choke on it and then
mhm,
realize, no, you just say it, right?
mhm,
Just do it. And that
mhm,
really has become my motto with so many things in life is just do it, because you
mhm.
never know how good you're going to be at something
Yeah,
unless you try.
yeah. Yeah, 100%. And, well, guys, watch out because I'm getting ranty. I've been listening to Tony Robbins again, and I don't think I've even finished a pod. It's been a few years because I found some other mentors,
Right.
but like I haven't even finished the podcast yet, and I'm already like volcanic explosions. he
He's
just fires,
terrific.
he just fires me up, right? I love him. But anyway, he says the reason that he does the cold plunge is not like for joy or anything, but it's for assertion of his authority over himself,
Hmm.
right? So that just do it thing is because I, like the spirit I, is deciding and
Mhm.
directing the mind and the body. So thank you, mind and body, for your physiological functions, but I,
Mhm.
the soul, the spirit, will tell you what and when and how we do what we do. So there is that element of just do it. And you know, the locking in piece of that is when you practice that skill, when you practice that, well, just ask Mr. and Mrs. Smith for that $10 donation, right? Like it's not for personal gain or anything.
Right.
But when you do that, you're now practicing that skill of doing things that are uncomfortable and acclimatizing yourself to it so that it's easier to do other uncomfortable things as time goes on.
Right.
And that's another beautiful, beautiful piece to extract in how we're building our resilience and how we're growing ourselves as a stay-at-home mom.
Hmm.
Right? Because it's downplayed. Why even myself, why am I like, "Mer," it's not. It is a beautiful, fulfilling, important job, and it's not just about your family, like, listen to all the things you've listed off as skill sets, it's community service.
Hmm.
I would be lost without some of the women in my children's lives who are able to support those communities, able to provide those activities at the school and extracurricular activities as well. Like,
Hmm.
it's a huge reaching, very impactful role to fulfill and to play in our societal web too.
Yeah. And you said two words that really resonate with me. One was uncomfortable, and I know I said that, and the other word was community, and I think giving back.
Mhm,
And you have to be a little uncomfortable to grow.
mhm,
And, as with any mom, I mean, think of all the things that we do as moms. Your kid has an accident. You have to deal with it.
mhm,
You have to think on your feet. You are
mhm.
uncomfortable most of the time because everything you're doing is so brand new.
And
And even,
reactive,
yeah, and
reactive,
reactive,
reactive, yeah.
totally. And another thing you said about community, so, so important, especially for moms. You want to be, to be around like-minded women, like-minded people who validate what you're doing, who understand what you're doing, who are doing the same on that same journey as you are, with their kids. And that's a huge community. And I've got friends now who I met years ago, and they're just still just dear parts of my life,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
and so important. And another thing that I think is really important for, something that we did, and it sounds like you do as well, is giving back. And that fills my heart to no end, to
mhm,
know that I am helping another human being
mhm,
is just so incredibly powerful. And I think that's a really great lesson for our children as well, to understand the concept of giving back, to
mhm,
understand that there are things that are bigger than we are and more important than we are, and how you can heal the world and mend the world by that simple act of kindness and giving
mhm.
back.
Yeah, yeah, one small step at a time,
Mhm.
and then demonstrating that leadership to them. Puts
Yes.
you in a different light. And, I want to get to this question of how are your children viewing this shift in mom? Like, I remember when I fledged the coop at the ripe age of 19, see you later, moved back for a month at 29, fair,
Right.
to land on my feet. But uh, when I moved out, I was the last child to leave. And my parents immediately sold the family home and moved into a cute condo out near the ocean, like, in
Right.
town. We were in a little suburb, and they moved, they
And you no longer
completely.
had a bedroom with them, so there was no
Yeah,
room for
yeah,
you.
it was like, "That's it, the last kid is out, we're done,
Yeah.
beat it." But I remember, and I had moved to a different province, but I remember coming home a handful of months later to visit, and when I walked into their apartment, I was like, "Whoa, this is Nina and Milan." Like, yeah, they're mom and dad, but, like, whoa, they're people outside of
Who
being
knew?
my parents.
Yeah.
They were just they had more, they had the ability to express themselves more. They had shifted the feel
Mhm.
to just enough that it was like our family space, and it still is, but you can tell that it's really more reflective of them than how they ran the house when they had 3
Mhm.
kids living with them, right? And that kinda hit me, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool." So,
Yeah.
as
They're
we change,
people. They're people too.
they're
Yeah.
people too,
Yeah.
exactly, right? They're people we forget, like my daughter right now, she doesn't know. She's 5, "What?" You do these other things. But in that, we're showing our children and showing a new sense of leadership as well as we start to take back
Mhm.
or, step further into. And so what do your kids think? Are they still at home? Have they left? Or like they
We
excited for you? They know anything?
they know everything that's going on. They
Yeah,
are all grown and flown. Our
yeah.
youngest will be graduating college this May.
Mhm,
So, we've had this empty nest thing going on for, well, let's call it 3 years, because COVID took out,
mhm,
well, actually
mhm,
almost 4 years, because COVID took out her senior spring, our youngest, her senior spring in high school, which was a bummer. But she was actually, she went to college, which was great. So we've, pretty much been doing this for 4 years, and they know what I'm doing. They're fully supportive. They're like, go mom. And I think they really love watching it because they're seeing a different side of me than what they saw before. And, my all three of my kids, we have a son and two daughters, and they've all been incredibly supportive. And I'm so grateful for that, because I think they realize that there is life after motherhood. And, as I sort of say on my website, what do you want to do when your kids grow up? And so I feel like I have really found who I am. The podcast has been so much fun and inspiring to really tell these untold tales of metamorphosis, from moms who were in the mommy trenches and did that. And then over time, sometimes over 20 years, we're slowly developing skills and passions and abilities that went on to, their next act, their next chapter. That's right. So, and it's everything from, photographers to people starting media companies and jewelry companies and other businesses. And so, I realized a while ago, I think I was talking to someone and I said, I think I have a brand here. And I realized not only did I have the podcast, but there was something much larger. And it was this community of empowerment and reinvention and understanding how resilient we are and how creative we are and all the beautiful soup of things, that we bring into our universe. So it's been, just sort of building this. And as I said before, flying by the seat of my pants and asking so many questions. I'm always the one who I might like to sit in the back of the room, but I'm like, I have so many questions. I feel like I'm always asking questions, and never be afraid to ask questions, because you're not the only one who has that question.
So did you think that whatever you started pursuing was going to become a business? How did you come to establishing a podcast and now this speaking platform that you're working on?
Right. It wasn't, it sort of snuck up on me, to be quite honest. You're right. The accidental businesswoman. And the podcast grew out of realizing what I had done. It was sort of a slow metamorphosis, but a couple of people said to me, gee, you have a great voice. You should do a podcast. And I thought, what am I going to do a podcast on? And then it just started sort of bubbling up inside. And I realized my personal journey of being a stay-at-home mom and reinventing. But then I thought, wait a minute, I know so many other women who do that. A woman that I was in our kids' school, she and her neighbor, they started a nonprofit. And I'll give a shout out to them. It's called Filling in the Blanks. And they feed children who are who have food insecurity on the weekends, because during the week they have the food at school, but not on the weekends. And they started, with 50 kids, and now they 50 kids feeding them a week. Now it's over 6,600 kids a week, with capacity to go to like 10,000. And so women just finding a need in their local community and taking action and doing something about it, coming back to work after 18, 20 years. And then I realized that's what the podcast has to be about, sharing these stories, these untold stories of reinvention, and they're just inspiring. And I think if anything, it can light a fire under a woman who's listening to say, well, if she can do it, I can do it. Or giving her ideas on how to follow her heart and make that path something that is viable and marketable, and that, she can make money at. And it's for me, it's just been super inspiring. The women have just been absolutely incredible, who have raised their hands to say, I'll be a part of this.
Yeah, I mean, the human story and really giving people a platform to share that is such a beautiful and kind of old tradition. And podcasts have blown that open for us again, where we can connect and, sit and be with a story for a while and really feel. I mean, I was reading some of the show descriptions, and I just can't wait to listen to some of them just for pure enjoyment. Like, I'm not trying to learn, I'm not trying to grow, because I push myself a lot I just want to be in some space and hear people's journeys and admire and be inspired by it, right?
And you will be, and I am. I mean, I listen to these
Mhm.
women and I think, holy cow. And so, the whole mom to more idea was, is to be this community where women can come and, really to be a platform for transformation and reinvention and empowerment,
Mhm.
and to say, to help women go from dreaming to doing, right?
Yeah.
From aspiration to action.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so those are important words in my vocabulary. And this platform, albeit new, is going to be that community. I'll have blogs. I have links to the podcasts. There will be, articles that from other women that inspire me in terms of, moving onward and how they did it. And so I think just sharing those ideas. And, what's interesting, Nia, is so many women get to be, in their could be 40s, 50s, even 60s, when their kids are getting older and they're flying the nest. And they think, well, I'm not sure if I could go back to my former career. Oftentimes, finance is really hard to go back into without a lot of re-education, without maybe someone that to say, I knew who you were before, and I'm not taking a chance on you, but I want you back because I knew what you were capable of doing before. And then I also think re-education is an important part. I mean, I went back to school over the
Mhm.
pandemic. My
Yeah.
background in advertising and writing, I really missed it. And I missed writing. I missed creativity. I missed being with people.
Mhm.
And so went back to school. And that was sort of a funny story because everything's online, and being the self-avowed tech boob that I am, my very first assignment was late. So I had the red thing flashing like late, late.
Oh no.
Right, so I got over that,
Yeah.
passed the course, and met some really incredible people in doing that. But that allowed me to go back to work as a brand strategist for,
Mhm.
for a company, and I helped to bring a new brand to market.
Mhm.
And it was just so wonderful for me to be back in that writing space. And I think
Mhm.
what's been interesting about the podcast is I have the talking space, I have the writing space,
Mhm.
and the communication space. And that just feels like a really wonderful place for me. Like that's where I want to be. And for me to be able to share what I've learned with other women to inspire and help them along their journeys of reinvention.
To be an example for it and, pave the way. Like
Mhm.
I've got a few favorite quotes, and one of them has something to do with women like you made the way for women like me, and for that I'm grateful. And we're
Mhm.
all doing that for each other. And so when we let our light shine, we become a beacon that others can come along, and it helps with that initial discomfort and nervous system reaction of unsafe, unsafe, unsafe. Oh
Right.
no, get me out. And it's like, yeah, but not really.
Well,
It's
and
like,
also to be able to have a
okay.
community of women
Mhm,
who are there to lift you up, right?
mhm,
Who are there to say, yes, you're scared, but look how far you've come already.
mhm,
And you just have to, every bit of growth is a hurdle,
mhm,
right? And I
mhm,
think Stan Wawrinka, the tennis player, and I know that he didn't write this, but he's got it tattooed on his arm, and it
mhm,
says something to the effect of fail, fail better, like fail again, fail,
mhm,
fail again, fail better. So every time you're failing, you're getting better and better and better while you're doing it. And it's only failure if you think it's failure. I
mhm,
look at it as growth,
mhm.
right? It sort of fits and starts, but it's growth, bottom line. And
Well, I'm gonna
that's,
have to bring
yeah,
it up. It's the baby learning to walk example,
yeah,
which I say almost every time, or it feels like it. But
yeah,
watch a baby learn how to walk, and how many times do they fall? For months, day after day, all day long, until they get it. And we lose that, right? All of a sudden, it
right.
becomes like it's not safe to, but it's actually the only way to discover things is to fail into them
Yeah, yeah.
100%.
And to be
So,
open to that failure, right? It's just human growth, and it's just sort of who we are, and you have to go down that route, albeit with you have that safety net of friends and
mhm,
community
mhm.
supporting you, and people like you doing what you're doing, and I think it can be a very powerful place to be. Just sort of hold. I always say, take someone's hand and jump,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, do it together, make it
Mhm.
safe. to fail because it doesn't define you and it doesn't determine your outcome. It's
100%.
part of the journey towards what's meant for you.
Right.
Now there's something I really want to pull out, and we're just completely, you know, I love this, especially Sharon, about how new you are in this business, because startups for sure, every business has a day zero, right? Or a day one. And
Hmm.
we all start from somewhere. So um, how's it going, and how, like, you get this creative control over how you're designing things, and what's the vision now, as a thought leader, showing up and speaking to groups of women and things like that, and how are you navigating the startup journey of implementing business systems and websites and tech, and managing a podcast can be, a daunting amount of work sometimes. I do mine bare bones, as everybody knows.
No, so do
Um,
I. Yeah.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
well,
So do I.
share some
Yeah.
of, some of your like operational figuring out as a startup.
I started the podcast on Zoom. It is still on Zoom, although I'm looking at other platforms. I'm probably other platforms that will allow two people not to be, because Zoom time, sometimes you can talk over one another,
Mhm,
and Zoom doesn't separate out the separate conversations.
mhm,
So I've been looking at other platforms for that, and probably a new microphone versus this thing in my ear. And so really just very slowly, like
yeah,
I'll hear something from someone else, and then I'll ask a question, and I'll think, okay, I'm going to have to do that next.
mhm,
And
mhm,
I just had a brand assessment, so it can help me sort of um, focus, my way to the future. Trying to think what else in terms of just the speaking. I
mhm.
was on a master class last fall. I've got another talk coming up at the school that my kids were at that will lead into a workshop. And so those are just my personal goals, to be able to share the message and share what's really interesting about people, I think, is people love to hear other people's stories.
Yeah.
And so in the podcast, I am letting, the women that I'm interviewing tell their stories, and that in and of itself is super inspirational.
Mhm,
And people can find bits and pieces of who they are in the people that I'm talking to.
mhm,
And so there's that aspect of it, that personal growth. In terms of building the business, yeah, the website that just went live today,
mhm,
momtomore.com.
mhm.
Um, and as I like to also say, done is better than perfect. So
100%.
obviously things will change, but at least
Mhm,
it's up and it's operational, and people can contact me there. And and on it, I really just talk about, what this whole community is for women, and talking about, all the things that we've probably felt at some point as a stay-at-home mom. And my premise is, well, what if? What if all of those years that you were home with the kids, you were actually, your brain did not go on hiatus like we all thought, but you were actually building slowly these skills and superpowers
mhm,
that will take you one day to whatever you're going to create that is undoubtedly going to be fabulous.
mhm.
And so recognizing that while you are, back in air quotes, just home with the kids, you are, as I said before, honing those incredible skills that will really take you far into your next chapter. And so just everything is all happening all together. Is it overwhelming? 100%. Is
Right.
it scary? Absolutely.
Mhm.
But, one day at a time, one foot in front of the other is really how I'm going to be building this. And I know that there are going to be times where it's a big challenge and I've made mistakes, and I'm like, all right, fine, I'll learn from the mistakes and I'll move on. So,
So, you guys, what I love about that is not necessarily worried about outcome, just trusting in exploring where it's going to go, from something that started small based on your own personal experience. It's already become bigger than you. It's already taking a life of its own on. And when, it's like, let go, just let go and see. So I'm going to play here. Instead of we're flying by the seat of our pants, we're just willing to explore and experiment until
mhm,
things start
mhm,
to show up and gain momentum.
mhm,
and we're willing to start without having, I don't even have something I can mimic, a big microphone, for the podcast. I mean, this is episode
Microphone.
47 or 8. I still don't have a mic, right? Like, don't care. I've got lots of downloads. The show's in a momentum. So it's doing the thing for the sake of doing it and letting the return come as it will, but we're not
Mhm.
chasing. And there's a difference in that because it's really coming from a place of service. And to me, it feels a lot more holistic and delightful, which keeps you open to the possibility of more rather than this constriction of, I have to do this and then this and then, and if I don't show up every day, I'm not going to get to the thing I want to get to. And
Right.
this is a big part of my story where I'm being hit like time and time again over the spiritual head with relax, just
Yeah.
relax and enjoy it. These things will come into place. Of course they will. I have the evidence in my life for lifetimes
Yeah.
of what's come my way already. And it's more important to take, those little uncomfortable, imperfect actions. They're not even nobody's paying that much attention. The sound is gonna be great. The earpiece looks pretty, like, top secret. It looks cool. You
I'm
know?
really CIA, but okay.
Right? Like, it looks fancy. I actually, funny side story, bought ear pods once, and they're pink, and they were terrible Bluetooth, but I thought it would look cool. It'd, like, look like I was cool if I had the little pods and, "Look at me podcasting." So it's just giving yourself permission to just do it, and already, like, you've got about, what, 10 episodes or something on your podcast? I'm
11,
counting.
11, yeah, 11
Yeah,
right now.
right?
And I've got content right now that's taking me into the summer. So
Right? And
yeah.
it's taken a life of its own on because you just took those few steps, and the beauty of, you're gaining clarity as you go too. You're cleansing and coming closer and closer to what it's gonna be, and that builds the confidence in
Mhm.
messaging. When we're starting out, it can be tricky to know, "Well, what am I gonna say?" and this and that, so you just practice it,
Mhm.
and that fitness comes over time too. So,
Yeah,
I mean, it's just
very
beautiful.
true. And just honing that message, and and that just comes from experience,
Mhm,
really,
mhm,
trying,
mhm,
failing, trying
mhm.
better, what works, what resonates. And then I realized, I remember at the beginning with my Instagram page, which actually started as Sharon Macey Writes, because
Mm,
I had just finished my online schooling at Kellogg in digital marketing strategies, and I wanted to get back to my writing work.
mhm.
And the developer for my SharonMacey.com website, the guy's like, well, you should have a professional Instagram page. And I thought, okay, sure, Sharon Macey writes. And then I realized as things were, and then I thought, well, what am I going to say, right? That whole messaging. And then you realize nothing is so precious. Just put stuff out there. And then
Mhm,
as things started to transition to this mom to more idea, I
mhm,
realized, okay, I've got to change the name.
mhm.
Now it's at mom to more. And there's just this sort of slow evolution. But what you said, Mia, really, I thought was so beautiful about just being open and letting things, just doing what you love. I remember my parents always said to me, do what you love because the money will come, right? And this is, it's not about that. It's about finding what works for you, what resonates for you, what makes you happy, what makes you want to get up extra early in the morning to do just that. Just like you. I know you're 3 hours behind me, right? And I think that's such a valuable lesson. It's just being open and having a vision and having steps that you want to take, but enjoying the ride while you're doing it.
Like being a kid, there's just this beautiful freedom in our child creativity that we put in a corner over time because life gets sticky and heavy and this sort of thing. And if we can just tap back into that openness, it allows for just, um, I mean, let's see if I can articulate this. I read a quote from Chelsea Handler that I just thought was perfect and resonated, and she says, "I'm very serious about my fun. I take my fun very seriously."
I'll support that. Absolutely. She's hilarious. I love her.
It's like this, these opposing forces. It's friggin' hilarious.
Mhm.
That's how we get adult and we get very serious and we have a job and a mortgage and this and that. And it's like, well, chill out, man, because that stuff's taken care of itself, right?
Mhm.
So don't forget where you came from. It's still in you and it doesn't have to disappear. Like, I'm lucky to have a kid because otherwise I just look like some crazy adult running around acting like a 5-year-old all the time, which I do anyway,
The
but
kid give your children give you permission to be crazy.
like,
So yeah,
it's a bit of a, she's not crazy, she's a mom. She,
that's a great line, actually. We're gonna have to make a t-shirt out of that one. She's
do
not
it.
crazy, dot, dot, dot. She's a mom. Okay.
She's a mom. She's permission to be crazy. So it's just that is that even in discovering ourselves, it's not like some heavy, serious monastery, silent 30-day thing. It's just messing around, like mom
Right.
life in a different context.
Yeah. I mean, but having a, having a direction, right? You
Or
have clearly you have a direction, in what you're doing, and same with me. And then just how you get there, right? There is no timeline. You will get there eventually, and
yeah,
it will be authentic and real and organic. And I think that, that is important in that journey. And I think with a lot of moms, as having been a stay-at-home mom for as long as I was, we often do find ourselves at that crossroads of self-discovery and reinvention. And that's really what Mom to More is, as a business is,
mhm,
what I'm aiming to to educate and inspire and motivate, these women who already have all of these gifts that they don't realize they have,
that's right.
and
Be their
talents that they
mirror.
don't, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, be
And
their
to help
mirror.
identify that and create their next phase of fabulousness.
Yeah, and encourage them and be the place where they can do that.
Mhm.
Yeah, a safe space, like we said at the beginning,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
important to
yeah,
be
yeah.
held through that because you do feel vulnerable. And if you are looking to go from mom to more, finding a space within like an incubation space to do
Mm,
that will help with the feelings of discomfort because the internet, if you kind of seek it on your own, can eat you up like a baby lamb by a pack of wolves type of thing. And you
right.
will feel that way, overwhelmed or fall into the comparison traps and the not enough traps. And so coming from this more holistic, this sisterhood place of doing it together, which is a big part of my messaging, the
Mhm.
whole thing, is just an easier way, to get through that initial nervous system reaction of fear, and start to come in. And so, Sharon's developed this incredible resource called 52 skills that you've developed as a mom.
Oh, well, no, not 52. It's actually 15 right now,
Okay.
with a bonus, and there will be more,
Yeah.
right? There
Yeah.
will be more. And it's my Mom to More guide. It's actually
Hmm.
like a mini book,
Hmm.
and it highlights 15 things that you're doing right now as a stay-at-home mom, and where these skills could potentially take you in terms of, your next chapter, in terms of a job, if you want to go that route. And there are, oh gosh, there's so many. I mean, let's just thinking about them off the top of my head, things like logistics and procurement.
Hmm.
Companies need that. The ability to multitask. I mean, we sort of laugh about it, but multitasking and having the ability to manage several things at a time. There's a lot of industries who, everything from being an executive assistant to being a producer on a film to, um, it's like off the top of my head, there's just, having that ability is valuable, super valuable.
Holding the chaos.
Yeah, being able
Yeah.
to do that, being able to manage, just being a manager of, think about all the things. I mean, as a mom, you are running a small company. It's called your family, and you are the CEO.
Hmm.
And when you're not just getting the kids out to school and making lunches and shopping and laundry, you're going on a trip, you're packing everyone, you're unpacking everyone, you're figuring out where you're going to go, you're planning that trip, you're buying the airplane tickets, you're a travel agent, you are teaching your kids, like when they get older, how to pack, right? My new thing now is rolling everything up. It works
Yeah.
great. It's actually a terrific little hack. You are an event planner, you're a party planner. Think about the parties. Every year you do a birthday party. That's an event. That's a party. You understand how to be a part of a larger group. If you're doing like an event, like a fundraising event, for a nonprofit or a school or something like that. So you're part of a larger group, but you are adding significant value to what you're doing. Dr. Mom. Now, granted, you're not, if you're not a doctor before, you're not going, you could become a doctor, right? I'm not gonna say, you realize, okay, I get really squeamish when I see blood. So I realize I could never be a nurse or a doctor. But there's some people who I think, get into that situation. They're like, this is great. I could do this. And who says you can't go to med school in your 40s, right? There's no law that says you can't do that. And so I think you find out so much about yourself. Being a chef, you're a nutritionist and a chef. It's your job to feed your family in a healthful way. A woman that I'm going to be interviewing, she actually started her own company, a catering company, because she's always been really, really good at that and super creative and visual. There are, just trying to think what else is on there. I think just you have the ability to negotiate and to communicate. You're an ace communicator. But as I said before, do not negotiate with a 4-year-old because you will absolutely lose.
Or a 14-year-old.
I interviewed someone who said, I learned everything I needed to know about negotiating, and she's in real estate, from negotiating with 4-year-olds.
Yeah.
And people may be grown-ups, but oftentimes they may still act like children. And so you can just use all your mom skills for communicating and negotiating and, with adults as well. You learn how to make a point. You learn how to get someone to do what you want them to do. With younger kids, you're working on the art of negotiation and, sort of the art of getting someone to do what you want to do. But as a kid becomes a teenager, you're full on into negotiation tactics.
Sharon, you are Mom to More. Like, you are the company. You are so passionate. And anybody that's going to come into your space will come in and they might be like, I don't know. And you're going to help them see what it is, right? Because you already see the possibility based on what their life story is. And then you'll be able to point certain things out to them. And if they're not going to be, closer to you initially, the guide and even just being in your community is going to be so encouraging and give them ideas along the way that's going to start to shift and open their minds to things that
Right.
they're constricted around. So it's such a beautiful gift that this has landed with you, the exact right person to deliver it, and that you're doing it. And starting out is inevitable. Nobody can jump steps in
Oh, no.
creating a business, right? We have to start somewhere. So thank you for showing up and taking the actions to the best that you can, and just being willing to grow it from there, and to be a light and a very important piece of, like, our societal development, right? To hold women through the next stage of life so that we can um, stay in love, and stay with ourselves, and stay in service to others.
And thank you, Mia. And I love what you're doing and how you're showing these stories of reinvention and entrepreneurship and women who are really doing extraordinary things. And so I love your platform as well. And just, grateful for this opportunity to chat about my new baby, so to
Yeah,
speak, right?
right?
My fourth child.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, if anyone was interested, the guide is it's all on my website. So
There you go.
everyone
Got
can
a
find it.
website now. It's open.
Finally
Yeah, and
live.
I'll have the
Yeah.
link. I'll pop the link on Facebook and I'll pop it in the show
Right.
notes and all of
Right.
that. So
Right.
super. So go and find Sharon. She's starting out. She needs those likes. She needs those podcast reviews, and we'll boost her up and we'll just spread her around and help her create our mission as we figure out what ours is. Or if we know, then we'll participate and support each other in
Thank
all of
you.
it.
Thank you. I think it's so important that we just all sort of hold hands. I know it sounds a little kumbaya, but it's so true, right?
Mhm.
Everyone needs someone to be a proponent, to lift them up, to be supportive.
Mhm.
And that's really, what this whole Mom to More community is. It's to inspire women to go from their dreaming to doing and
Mhm.
just to take action on their aspirations and their dreams. And it is so possible. And it's, with work, right? Nothing comes easy in life. You have to work for what we believe in and where we want to go. And I think that's just a powerful message to women. It's really like I guess a gateway to your next chapter.
100%. Beautiful. Lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mia. This has been so much fun.
Great.